We spend so much time in personal branding talking about how we are going to build a personal brand or define a personal brand. But you actually need to think about the personal brand that you already have. Because one of my favorite definitions of personal branding is that personal branding is what people think about you, how you make them feel, what they say about you, especially when you're not in the room, and how they remember you. So when you think about that definition then you already have a personal brand. So how much do you understand the personal brand that you already have and the impressions that you are leaving on other people? That's what I want to dive into in today's episode. I want to ask you 21 questions to help you better understand the personal brand that you already have. So grab a cup of tea and let's dive into it. So, for this episode, you're going to want to grab a pen and a paper or pull up the notes app on your phone and get ready to be pausing throughout this episode as well, because I really want you to take the time to reflect on the questions that I am going to ask you, because it will help you to understand your personal brand better. Question number 1 is, at a party, what do people's ears prick up at about me? Personal branding can often sometimes be conceived as something that is really self-indulgent, when really the best personal branding will acknowledge that people don't actually care about you as much as you think that they do. But every so often there is something that people are genuinely really curious about. What do you find people asking you more questions about when you see them socially at a party, for example? This will tell you something about the personal brand that you already have and the impressions that you are leaving on people. Question number 2 is, what are people often asking me for advice with or help on? When your friends, your family, your colleagues seek you out for a particular reason, it is because they associate you with that thing. They think that you have expertise or advice to be able to offer, or skills in that area. So what are people seeking you out for? Question number 3 is, what does my boss often say about me? If you've ever been a manager before, you probably know that it can sometimes feel like you are a work parent. You spend that amount of time with your team and having to be across everything that they are doing. So in the case of your boss, it's probably one scenario where they are actually thinking about you potentially more than you actually realize. So notice what it is that they are saying about you and use this as feedback as to the personal brand that you already have. Question number 4 is, what do my teammates always say about me? Your colleagues can sometimes feel like the grown-up version of your peers in high school. You spend that amount of time with them. You usually even spend more time with them than you do your own family. So what is it that they are saying about you? Again, what key themes can you pick up on? This will tell you something about the personal brand that you are leaving with your colleagues day to day. Question number 5 is, what have my former colleagues said about me? Sometimes people are better at giving feedback when we are in farewells than when we are in our day-to-day operation. So when you reflect on some of the feedback that you've maybe gotten in farewell cards or in speeches from your team, is there anything that you are noticing is standing out again as a consistent theme? Question number 6 is, what do my customers say about me? Your customers are going to be able to give you the best feedback about the experience that your personal brand has helped to deliver. So what has their feedback included? What does this say about your personal brand? If you don't have your own business and you work for someone else, then see your customers as potentially being internal customers. So what are perhaps other departments saying about you? What are key stakeholders saying about you? Maybe it's people in your industry. What are the customers that you have as a part of your role? Question number 7 is, how have my family described me? Our family usually knows us better than anyone else in the world, and they usually are more forthcoming with their feedback about us as well. So pay attention to what they are saying, because you're likely going to be able to get a better understanding of the positive and maybe the negative impressions that your personal brand is leaving as well. Question number 8 is, what are the 3 adjectives my friends would use to describe me? Your friendship circle is probably going to be more diverse than your family circle. You're going to have more personalities, more interests in those spaces. So, across your different friendship circles, what consistent themes can you find when it comes to what people are saying about your personal brand? Now, they're probably not going to use the words personal branding, but generally, what is it that you are noticing that they consistently say about you? Question number 9 is, what do my birthdays tell me about my personal brand? Birthdays tend to be a time where people will tell us things about ourselves that they probably might not have said during other times of the year. Usually, this is packaged in a message or a card that is showing their gratitude for you, and they usually will highlight specific things that they are grateful for. So, when you think about the messages that you have received, or if you have a look over any of your old cards, what are the consistent themes that you can see coming through in those messages as well? The things that people will express that they are most grateful for are the things that they are remembering you for. So that is a big part of what your personal brand represents. Question number 10 is, if I wasn't in the room, how would my colleagues, customers, friends, and family describe me? A big part of personal branding is said to be the things that people say about you when you are not in the room. A lot of people say this is especially what represents your personal brand. So if you were to imagine what people would say when you weren't there, the good and the bad, then this will give you a better understanding of the personal brand that you probably already have. Question number 11 is, what strengths do personality profiles tell me that I have? We like to think that there is no one in the world who is like us at all. And yes, when it comes to personal branding, there is no one that has your unique combination of interest and skills all wrapped up in your story. But when it comes to your personality, because of all of the work that has been done to understand personalities, you'll probably find that personality profiles or strengths profiles are potentially more accurate than you might think. So have a look at any personality profiles that you have access to. Some of my favorite personality and strengths profiles are Myers-Briggs and the VIA Institute of Character, which you can actually do a free survey on. This will tell you what your top strengths are. Because of the series of questions that these personality profiles ask you, they are able to understand your personality in a way that you might not actually be so aware of in your day-to-day interactions. So see what your top strengths are coming across as, because they're likely the things other people also notice about you. And with a lot of these profiles as well, they actually also tell you the things that might be your lesser strengths or your potential weaknesses. So this is again an opportunity to get feedback on the personal brand that you likely already have. Question number 12 is, when I look at my wardrobe, how would I describe my overall style? Our wardrobe and our personal style says something about the personality that we have. Clothes can send cues, they can communicate for you. So when you have a look at your wardrobe, what is the personality that your wardrobe is likely communicating for you? Question number 13 is, when I look around my personal spaces, how would I describe my style? So like your wardrobe, your personal spaces are going to be communicating something about your personal brand. Maybe it is in your home, maybe it's the way you keep your car, maybe it is your desk when you are working. So what is your personal space saying for your personal brand? It's likely the shop front window of your personal brand for people. So what is it saying about your personal brand? Question number 14 is, how does Grammarly describe my tone of voice? One of my favorite features of Grammarly, even when you just have the free account, is that they send you an email every single week. And in that email, they summarize a few key things. And one of my favorite parts to look at is actually the tone of voice summary that they give you, because it will tell you the tone that it has detected in your writing. So while you might not necessarily Be aware of the tone that you have as a part of your personal brand. Because of all of the AI technology that we now have, you can use platforms like Grammarly to help you to understand the tone of voice that your personal brand is expressing to others. Question number 15 is, how did my teachers used to describe me? There are a few things that will give us feedback about our personal brand as directly as sometimes our teachers' feedback has been in, say, report cards, for example. You might want to go back as far as high school, you might have studied post-high school, but what do you have access to that could tell you more about the personal brand that you have left in the world? It's going to be likely that you have evolved past this to some degree. Maybe you've changed a lot, but there are going to be things in there that will give you clues about the personal brand that you potentially still have today. So go back over any old report cards that you have or reflect on any of your teachers' feedback and ask yourself what it says about your personal brand. Question number 16 is, what have my bosses or mentors told me I should work on? So if you've had a boss before, then you've likely been through some sort of professional development, regular review process. Maybe your boss generally always is giving you feedback. So what has your boss told you that you need to work on? If you are part of a mentoring program, for example, it might be that you have been introduced to a mentor that you didn't actually know previously, but still listen to the feedback that they are giving you about your personal brand, because it's likely that this is going to be based on the first impressions that your personal brand conveys. So be aware that your first impressions are going to be formed immediately and they are actually lasting. So your mentor can help you to shed some light on the first impressions that your personal brand is leaving, if it is someone that you don't potentially already know well. Question number 17 is, what skills do I often receive compliments on? A lot of us sometimes struggle to take compliments at their face value. We can be our own biggest critic. But if you are to just take compliments for what they are without being too overindulgent in them or obsessing over them, then what are the compliments that you are receiving? Again, these are the things that people are probably noticing about your personal brand. They're leaving some sort of positive impression that people are most likely going to remember. So compliments over time, especially if you're noticing any key themes, can start to give you a better idea about the personal brand that you already have. Question number 18 is, what have I often felt criticized for personally and professionally? Feedback that is negative can sometimes be really difficult to hear. As humans, we are said to hold on to positive feedback as though it is Teflon, and we're said to hold on to negative feedback as though it is Velcro. So when you think about the impressions that you have left on other people that you don't necessarily consider to be so favorable, then what are those things and how could you potentially work on them going forward? Question number 19 is, am I a lurker, consumer, or leader on social media? A really strong brand on social media can say a lot about a personal brand, but silence can also speak volumes. So if you think about yourself as either being a lurker, a consumer, or a leader on social media, which one are you? Do you hide in the shadows and never make yourself known? Do you consume other people's content a lot without actually providing any value of your own? Or do you actually lead conversations? Because whether you are active or inactive on social media, this is the impression that you are leaving on people. Question number 20 is, do I lead with my title or personality when I meet someone new? Research has shown that first impressions are formed within a tenth of a second. So when you meet someone new, do you lead by telling them what it is that you do, your title, who you work for, or do you lead with your personality? Do you ask questions? Do you ask them things about themselves? If you are leading with your title, then people are probably going to be defining you simply by where you work and your current title. But when you lead with your personality, you are potentially offering more of an opportunity for them to connect with you on an emotional level. And think about this question about whether you lead with your title and your personality, even when it comes to your social life. So this might not always be in work settings, but when you meet someone new socially, do you just want to talk about your title, or is this the first question that you ask other people? Or are you leading with personality and looking to establish a connection? Because either approach is going to leave an impression for your personal brand. So decide which approach you want to take. Finally, question number 21 is, what habit or topic are people always remembering about me? So at the start of this episode, I asked you to think about what it is that people are particularly curious about when you are at a party, for example. When you think about that thing, you'll notice the people that are curious about certain topics. But then when you actually see those people again, pay attention to the things that people are actually remembering, the things that they are bringing up about your previous conversations. Maybe it was something you talked about, maybe it is a habit that you have, maybe it is a skill or an interest. What are the things that you are noticing other people are coming back to? Because this shows that it is a part of your personal brand that they remember. Simply by not speaking a lot and allowing other people to speak and ask questions, you will learn a lot more about the personal brand that you already have. Before you start to think about building your personal brand, which is what I often talk about the most on this channel as a personal brand coach, spend the time actually thinking about the personal brand that you already have, the things you want to continue to be known for, or the things that you might want to work on. Thanks so much. Subscribe for more like this, and I'll see you in the next episode.